So today is the Day of the Dead, so I drew an Eichstaettisaurus, which is like a geckonomorph, which basically means it's related to living geckos, but in the case of Eichstaettisaurus, it's outside the crown group Geckota, which just means that it's, even though it's related to living geckos, it didn't descend from like the common ancestor of all living geckos. So yeah, and so it's a stem. It's thought to be a stem gecko. So I'm just drawing the outline of the skull at the minute. It's like I'm doing it from a top-down perspective, which is, yeah. And then for this drawing I used, for the base layer of the skull, I used the streak of apatite, mineral apatite, which is calcium phosphate, which is what bones are partly made up of. So that's what I'm using at the minute. And Eichstaettisaurus was preserved in the Sohnhofen limestone in Germany. I don't think I'm drawn on limestone at the minute, but yeah. And in the Sohnhofen limestone, Archaeopteryx was actually preserved as well, and the Sohnhofen limestone's about 150 million years old, but there were no like flowering plants or grass or anything like that. So I'd instead of drawing like flowers or grass for the Day of the Dead like skull, instead I drew like conifers in cones, in the conifers cones. So at the minute I've just drew like the two cones, which are basically like if you see cones sometimes they look green before they turn brown. So I've just basically drew that because I wanted them to be like a bit more colourful, because that's usually how the Day of the Dead skulls look, like quite colourful. So that's why I did them green instead of brown. And you can see above the eyes you have like 4 different holes in the skull which I've drawn, so that's like temporal fenestrae, and and then you've got like the white in between them separating them, and the white separating them from the orbits, like the eyes. So I'm just drawing like the details. Well, I drew the details for the 2 cones, and I'm drawing one for where the parietal foramen would go, which is a hole in the skull where a parietal eye could go, which living geckos don't really have. They don't, and they don't have like the parietal foramen. So yeah, so it's interesting because even though you don't get like the flowers and the grass and stuff, you still get stuff like crickets in the limestone, which, you know, like it's quite interesting, like if Eichstaettisaurus ate crickets, because obviously with lots of people feeding their pet geckos crickets and stuff, and then you had stuff like grasshoppers, which even though there was no grass around, you still had grasshoppers. And there was like a jellyfish as well, because limestone, it's like that, it tends to form from like living creatures like shells and stuff like that, and like coral reefs and stuff. So, and there were actually coral and sponges like with reefs in like in the Sonhofen limestone where it was. So I'm just drawing like more conifer patterns, so like the foliage sort of thing, because conifers have been found in the Sonhofen limestone, and now I'm just drawing like a brown cone. Eichstaettisaurus had adaptations for climbing, and the conifer foliage, like the leaves I've been drawn, is based on the conifer brachyphylum. So this genus has been found in the Sonhofen limestone. I've just got like the patterns like next to the eyes. They're meant to be like little patterns on cones. Dragonflies have also been found in the Sonhofen limestone, so that's interesting. So one of the cones next to the nostrils actually makes the Eichstaettisaurus look like it's licking its eye, like a gecko. And so, yeah, so it wasn't intentional, but yeah. And so like pigopods, which they're not, well, when you say like limbless lizards, they get called flap-footed lizards, so they're not entirely limbless, but they're sort of like legless geckos, and they're similar to geckos in that they lick their eyes. They can lay 2 eggs, and they can even, like Lyalis, this genus, it's been found to like wave its tail as like a distraction, which is what like leopard geckos and crested geckos can do. And it can also, this Lyalis can also wave its tail as a lure as well, which is interesting. But like, I don't know if the Eichstaettisaurus would actually lick its eye, because geckos can't really like cry or anything. So that's why even with eyelids in like the eublifarids, they still sort of lick their eyes to keep them moist. So that's interesting. But yeah, of course the tongue would be like the cone in Eichstaettisaurus, if it is like a stem gecko, would probably have like, it would probably be bifurcated, so just meaning that it would have like a notch in the tongue, so not quite like a forked tongue, but like a little notch in the tongue, like geckos and other members of the clade bifurcata have. So after I finished, I just added in like a few more details, so like some little reddish brown dots on like the green cones, just to, because they do sort of have, if you look at like conifer cones, the green ones, they do sort of have like reddish brown bits on them. And then yeah, so thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day.